Backstage.
All right, we've got some high-tech goodies here. Why don't you run us through it?
Okay. So there's lots of different firing systems. There are systems where you have wires running up from everything back to your control panel. There are systems like this, which is a wireless system, so you have a module that goes out in the field, and then the remote where you're actually firing it. This particular one is Cobra, which is a company out of New York.
Okay, so this is the transmitter.
Yep, that's the transmitter or the remote. This item here with this antenna here. This is the field module. So what we have here, let me turn that down, is you can connect up to 18 lines in here. Everything is key. Sorry, so put this here. It goes through. It shows the firmware version. It runs self-diagnostics. It tells you the battery levels so that you know whether you need to swap out your batteries for the show.
Right.
And that's ready to go. So tell you what I'll do. Let's set this onto ARM here. And then what we'll do is we'll try to give you a rough idea of what's going on here. So let me adjust the light there. Okay, now if you can read that there, it says C01. That means that this is set on channel 1.
Right.
So anyways, I'm not going to choke myself with the lanyard. I'm going to take this off. Everything is key switch. You notice we have this in ARM mode. So I turn on the transmitter, and again, it runs through. It does a self-check, a self-diagnostic, whatever. And in this case, because this is a programmable unit, before it goes to the channel number, the last number it showed in that case was a 00. That means I have no scripts loaded onto it.
Right.
The way you load a script is you've actually, this little connection here is a USB connection. You load your script in a specific format onto a USB stick, plug it in there, and you can download it and have a bunch of scripts on there. And then when you're programming your script, you basically say, I want to be on this channel and do this, and then it does that.
Right.
So here, for example, we'll arm the system. And, yep, your light came on, which is good. We don't want that. So that tells armed. Now, obviously, since I have nothing plugged into it, I'm not going to do continuity checks or whatever because it would fail the continuity checks. I'm on 1, so I'm just going to press a button, and hopefully you should see a light go on.
There we go.
So,
what typical range would we have with this?
They've maxed it out in theory around 3,000 feet. They don't generally recommend that. They usually say about 1,000. The company does manufacture repeaters and signal boosters and extra antennas to extend it. So if they're using it in, say, a field like a baseball diamond or something like this, you're doing this. Now, another feature that we have here, I'm going to disarm for a minute. Another feature that we have is what's called a sequencer item, where I can do auto fire, and I can tell it a particular channel and how fast I want it to fire. So in this case, 0.3 of a second. And you notice it's going through.
There we go.
Now you can set it at a 1/10 of a second, or
Right.
you can go up. You can set it for like 99 seconds if you wanted to. That's basically how you got
Right.
that. One of the nice things I like about this system is it's fully bidirectional, so that you can, you can still go out in the field and run your continuity checks and what have you, but you can also do your continuity checks from the remote. And if you have multiple modules, you can have up to 99 or 100 channels. 0 to 99. And you can have multiple modules on the same channel. And so say you had 2 modules on channel 1, and there was a problem on the continuity on one of the modules. This would give you a flashing green light. Green light means good. Flashing green means there's a problem somewhere in all of this, but it will also tell you, each one is, I don't know if you noticed when I started it up, it gave a code like AO whatever. That code will tell you what module it's on, so that you know to go look at that one. You don't have to go find, well, where are all of my channel 1 modules or whatever.
So you could have multiple ones of these.
Yeah.
controlled by that same meter.
Yeah, they can all be controlled with this. There's a new firmware version which has just come out, which I haven't. I need to upgrade all my systems. You can see I'm still. Yeah, that's another thing. If you're using any sort of system with firmware upgrades in that, always make sure you mark what your versions are so you know where you are in that, and you can make sure that all of your modules are at the same. You don't want to have a mismatch.
I do a certain amount of microcontroller programming, and nowadays that's what's so great about the way things run nowadays.
Yeah.
It's easy to do that. In the old days, you'd buy something, you want a firmware upgrade, you buy the next version. That's all there is to it. Now they can give you the latest greatest, and you don't have to go and rebuy everything.
Yeah, the way Cobra does their firmware revisions is they usually do one once a quarter to add new features. This one, for example, has a lot of new features that I'll want to be using for my Halloween show that I just haven't programmed it yet. But what they do is they offer a wireless reprogrammer, which you plug that into your computer, and you run the update software, and it will control it all wirelessly. It transmits everything out, upgrades your firmware, and you can do as many modules at one time as you have.
Right. Right. Now, I mean, this could be used, obviously this is high-end gear, but there's no reason why this couldn't be used on a smaller event. It would just make it run that much better.
I use these for my my family product Halloween shows. As I electrically fire them, I can just sit back. Last year was the first year that I was able to run scripts. Before, it had been as they say, somebody with a stopwatch tapping me on the shoulder, and I'm pressing the step button, and step just increments it through the channels. Last year was the first year they offered the programmable system with scripts, so I used the script. I still had to listen for a countdown. I'd put a 10-second countdown at the beginning of the music file that was being played over the sound system, and I knew that when it hit 0, I had to hit the button, and hopefully I was in time with that. This year, they're coming out with what they call, really fancy name, the audio box. What this does is this hooks into the whole system here, and you load your music on a USB stick.
Right.
Plug it into the audio box. The audio box is hooked into your sound system, and then everything is controlled by this. It's about the next best thing to time code. So if you have to pause your show for whatever, you pause it, the music stops. You can start it back up where you left off.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. So that's going to be even more of a set it and forget it. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Awesome. What do you got there?
This is a little one-shot, and this would be something, and again, there's lots of different types, so this is just one. But this is a little one-shot device, and this would be used for if you were wiring somebody up for a bullet hit.
Right.
Yep. So this item...
This is the receiver?
Yep, this is the receiver, so it turns on, you have your little... The orange is on because it doesn't have continuity because I have no electric match in there. But you basically put your electric match in there. This unit will fire up to 3 E-matches hooked in series, not in parallel, but in series. And then, so this would be like in somebody's pocket or taped to them, whatever. And then you have your little remote here.
Little fob. Yeah.
So you would turn that on, you would, extend your, that, and then,
right.
So that
rolling
triggers it off, and there you go.
Yeah. So to wrap things up a little bit, you're always up for hire too. People can contact you, ask questions about a gig they might want to do, and hopefully through just getting the word out, we can make this easier to do and easier for people to. I know producers, and as soon as you mention pyro, they go, "Oh, it's too much trouble. I don't even want to go there." But there's no reason for that. No. It's no different than any other effect. I would hope that people would ask the questions and what have you, and you're welcome to put any information like that up on our site. Yep. Gigs that are coming up or whatever, people want to see it, see a show or what have you. Yeah. Don't hesitate.
One thing that I think it's kind of bad news, and it's a little bit of Schadenfreude. I'll readily admit that. But I think a lot of the problems that have been happening in the visual effects industry, like Rhythm and Hughes going bankrupt and all of that, in some ways I think it can be advantageous for the practical effects standpoint. Gillis and Woodruff of Amalgamated Dynamics, who've done, they do physical creature effects for the Alien movies and stuff like this. They just completed a round of financing on Kickstarter. They're working on a new movie called Harbinger Down. I don't know if you're aware of that one.
I go on Kickstarter all the time because I think it's the future.
Yeah, I've invested in a number of projects. I've been quite pleased that I actually threw in for Harbinger Down because I like. Even if I wasn't doing effects, I like the idea of old school practical effects. And I'm hoping, as I say, I hate to say it this way because it sounds like I want the CG industry to die, and I don't. But I think there's got to be a certain amount of shakeup because of the way the business model is working and everybody between undercutting themselves and having to pay out of their own pocket if they need another take and the way the contracts are written. There's going to be a lot of shakeup. It's going to get worse before it gets better. I think you're going to be equilibrium. But I mean, even a lot of the older companies like Richard Edlund and Boss Film Studios, that's pretty well gone. Digital Domain is still around, but not nearly as big as when Cameron started that one up. ILM is Lucas has got them forever, so they're good on that. But they're even getting away from the physical effects. I mean, for instance, say the Star Wars, the Death Star trench run was shot out in their parking lot. They had the trench and everything, and they had the pyro loaded on. They used the natural sunlight, and they just ran the cameras down there and did that. And that was all physical, all practical effects. Yeah. And nowadays, Lucas is doing it on all CG, and I do think it loses something. When your actors don't have something physical to deal with, to react to,
much harder.
It is. It's harder for them.
Yeah. Oh, I've heard that time and time again. I don't know any actor that I've ever talked to that likes green screen. Yeah. They just don't. It's okay. Cut it off here and say thank you very much for coming.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me here.
I hope we've given everybody an idea of what this is about. It's the safety aspects, why kind of a thing. And I'd like to promote this. I really would like to promote more pyro. So we're going to
more pyro is always good. You can't have too much pyro.
Can't have too much pyro. No. Brian, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, David.